Welcome back to Making Money Matters, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson. Today, this is really about making money matter because I've got Chris Byrne. He's the CEO and Managing Director of Legacy Minerals. The ASX code is LGM, and they will be presenting at the Australian Gold Conference in late August in Sydney. But for now, I think it's really important. I don't think the market's woken up to what these guys have got their hands on, a deal that they've done with one of the largest, if not the largest gold company in the world, and just how far they've come since listing back in, when was it, Chris?
2021, September.
September 21. These guys have been working their yin-yangs off, and it's got the attention of a major, and I don't think the market's recognised fully exactly what they've got their hands on. So, Chris, great to see you.
Thanks for having us on, Kerry. Yeah, thank you.
Let's start. You've got 7 projects. They're all in New South Wales, all in the Lachlan Fold Belt. Chris, before we get into the detail, what was it that attracted you to this area and building these projects up?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We started the company as a private exploration company back in 2017. So it's a fair journey before we listed. But we saw a real opportunity in New South Wales where the cost to acquire projects was very, very cheap. It's probably the best jurisdiction in Australia to peg ground. So as a small junior, we were able to peg all our tenements. So we've not paid for a single project that we have in our portfolio. I think that's important to note that these are fresh projects. They might have been explored or legacy projects that people have had maybe in the 80s or the 90s. But we've pegged them as free ground, and that really coincided with the New South Wales government rolling out a really revolutionary digital titles management system that opened up a treasure trove of pre-competitive data. So we're able to look through that data, look through all these old projects, and we really saw some fantastic opportunities in New South Wales. We started to peg those licenses. And then we've added value through the boots on ground work that we've done on those projects. So that's why we're in New South Wales. It's our backyard. We operate out of here. We know it very well. And that opens a lot of doors for, I guess, great land access across the communities. We're well known throughout the areas that we've worked in over a couple of years now. So we feel it is a really good place to work, but also has extreme exploration upside. We're certainly seeing that in some of our projects, this overlooked regions, but also projects that just haven't had modern geophysics, systematic geochemical work. And that's where we're really seeing some great success in some of our projects.
And there's a lot of projects. Let's talk about exactly where the projects are located, because it's the Lachlan Fold Belt of New South Wales. There's a few people around you that have had success, like Alkane with Tomingley, I think, which is to the north. And you've got projects all around. There we go. Look at that. Perfect timing. So let's talk about these projects. I think this is a really good view of what you've got. And we're going to get into the fact that, and I said it in the introduction, Newmont have taken an interest. That's massive, Chris. Massive. How did that get about? I mean, first of all, before we get into Newmont, talk us just brief overview of each of these projects.
Yeah, sure. So we've got a fairly extensive portfolio there. Black Range, Rockley, Cobar, Harden are all the projects of which we own 100%. Ballura, Fontenay, Mulholland are projects which we've allowed partnerships to come in and earn on those projects, notably Newmont and Earth AI. So quite, I guess, both those companies are at the forefront of their respective fields, Newmont being the world's biggest gold miner, and Earth AI at this sort of artificial intelligence exploration space, so at that forefront as well. So they add value to our portfolio by, I guess, giving our shareholders optionality with funding. They progress those projects forward. So if you look at our portfolio as well, you'll see a copper gold focus. And that a lot of that revolves around the types of systems that we're exploring for, but we're certainly very, very long on gold and very long on copper as well. There's 2 great commodities to be looking for. The Lachlan Fold Belt is Australia's, it's most well known as the best porphyry copper gold, belt in Australia, and it's home to Australia's biggest gold mine, which is the Katie Ridgeway porphyry, which I think has a endowment close to 50 million ounces of gold and 10 million tonnes of copper. So you're talking about when that discovery was made in 1992. And I'll talk a bit more about the importance of that year with one of our other projects, which was also being explored by Newcrest at the same time. But that Katie Ridgeway discovery really drew a lot of explorers and miners to the Lachlan Fold Belt, looking to replicate that same success in those same rock groups. We've got a porphyry project, which is Rockley, to the east in the same type of rock groups. So that's phase 4 Ordovician volcanic. So that's quite an exciting project there. We've been slowly working that project up in parallel to our other projects in our portfolio. To the north, we've got Mulholland. So that's a fairly recent acquisition. We saw a great opportunity to pick up some free ground around Sky's Doradilla tenement. They were looking for tin. They made a significant rare earth discovery out there recently. So we get, I guess, good upside from the great work that those guys are doing up north. And Earth AI have that as part of their alliance agreement. At Cobar.
Sorry to interrupt you for 1 second, but Mulholland up north there, Earth AI, just talk about the deal that you've done with Earth AI, if you would, and just leave this map up for a bit longer, because I think it's important as we go through the projects. That Mulholland project, Earth AI, what's the deal with that one?
Yeah, so it's a strategic alliance, and it's something that I think we were the first company on the ASX to, like a junior, to enter into one of these types of partnerships where Earth AI are looking at 2 projects, Fontenoy and Mulholland. They're quite big in terms of the scale of the mineralization. We're talking kilometres of surface anomalism, drilling across several kilometres as well. So quite big data sets there. Earth AI, with their artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms, they have the ability to ascertain drill targets. Earth AI spend money on ground verifying those, and then they go out and drill them with their own drill rigs. So it costs legacy nothing. It's not a traditional earn-in like a JV, so it's quite different to Newmont's. So if Earth AI is successful in drilling a target, then they are able to earn a royalty over that discovery. But it's a purely success-based alliance there. So there's no earning rates. Earth AI can spend up to $4.5 million, but it's purely driven by success, and they need to be hitting essentially economic intercepts in order for them to qualify to earn any sort of ownership over those prospects.
What's their background? Are they geos? Are they just using artificial intelligence?
Yeah, they started off. Roman's the founder, geologist through City University, but really heavily involved in the tech space. So they're backed by some of Australia's biggest venture capital firms. So a real mix between the 2 different industries there in terms of this emerging tech VC space and exploration, which historically there's not really been much alignment between those 2. But the fact that they get their funding from Silicon Valley, there's a lot of they're San Francisco based and working on our ground is quite an incredible sort of position to be in terms of seeing that tech money come into the exploration space, and that's really driven by metals shortages. Everyone realizes just how critical it is for decarbonisation, your electric vehicles. The metals have to come from somewhere.
I think it's brilliant, actually. I often talk about why don't we use more technology around finding these metals in the ground. So well done, you. So continue with the project. Sorry, I just wanted to understand a bit more about Earth AI.
Sure. So Cobar, we've got a real prime position right in the heart of the Cobar region there. So that's seen some very recent corporate activities that have seen 2 mines change hands, CSA and Endeavour. So we've got a good package of land right next door to the Peak Gold Mines, and we'll be working on some of those targets throughout this year as well. Down sort of south, so this Cootamundra Harden region is where we're focused the bulk of our projects. Fontenoy, I mentioned, that's under the Earth AI a strategic alliance, and we've got Hardham, which is an orogenic system down there, and we did some initial work right at our IPO and got some quite good high-grade gold intercepts down there. But really the 2 projects in our portfolio that we see as adding most value for shareholders is Ballura and Black Range. So they're both the same type of systems, low sulfidation epithermals. Ballura is under the Newmont joint venture, and Black Range is owned 100% by Legacy. So Black Range being a relatively new project in the portfolio. And we pegged that when we sort of realised about a year ago that Ballura was shaping up to be something special, something that we consider to have global potential and global significance. You know, the validation of one of the world's biggest gold miners, that they also, you know, must see the same sort of potential in it. We looked around the Lachlan and we thought there has to be another project out there that is going to be similar to Ballura, and that's where we've ended up at Black Range down near Yass down there.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about both Ballura and Black Range, but let's start, if you like, with Ballura and Newmont, Chris, because what I think people want to know, and I don't think the market fully understands it, is what's the deal with Newmont, and why did you do it? Because to get the attention of a big major like that doesn't happen very often. I don't think Newmont's done a deal with a company like yours in a very long time.
Yeah, you're right. And before I dropped the map off, the last joint venture
sorry.
the last Newmont joint venture in New South Wales with a listed company was Alkane Resources. And so they actually found the McPhillamys deposit.
Yep.
So that was about in around 2005. So they don't come out onto projects unless they see, you know, significant potential. So they're looking for world-class, you know, tier one deposits. That's the sort of mandate that those major gold miners are looking for when they're looking at projects. So I guess we were able to attract the interest of companies like Newmont on our project by the systematic work that we've done on the tenement. So the systematic work started to reveal a very, very big, you know, district scale project with significant anomalism across quite a large area. The rock chips that we were taking, the textures, the geochemistry and the geophysics really started to bring together essentially geological evidence that this system has the potential to host a world-class deposit. So as we put those announcements out to the market, the responses were always a bit muted, but, you know, in the background, it was quite ironic that we're seeing, you know, increased attention from, you know, some of these major miners when the market didn't really quite appreciate, I guess, the asset that we were uncovering there. And we sort of feel that, you know, in terms of that Newmont joint venture as well, that I don't think the market's quite appreciated the value that presents for our shareholders. So in terms of the deal structure,
yeah,
what it allows Newmont is to earn up to 75%, 15 million spending 15 million to earn 75%. So it's a discovery-focused joint venture. We're managing the exploration program for the first 4 years. So I think that's an important endorsement from Newmont in terms of our ability to discover and explore for these types of systems. We'll obviously be getting a lot of good technical input and assistance from Newmont, who, you know, they explore these systems globally, they mine these systems globally, they know what they're looking at. They operate some of the world's biggest epithermal systems. And these low sulfidation epithermals account for a huge proportion of the total gold produced globally. They're not often found in New South Wales, so it is a rare project from that perspective. And that did take some time, I guess, for that understanding to come together, because that technical breakthrough and that recognition, not only is it, you know, we see it as a great endorsement of the project that Newmont have signed on, but academically, Ballura is, you know, breaking through a lot of barriers in terms of understanding these mineral systems existing in New South Wales. In terms of the deal, what we see as being really important for our shareholders is that continued sustained funding. These projects can be tricky to unpack and difficult. And that's historically what has been a lot of these big systems can take, you know, several years of exploration to really piece it together. So you need that sustained exploration effort that can often exhaust juniors. And when you look at the discovery journeys on other projects, Pajingo being quite a good one that we refer to, a junior up there chased that deposit down, exhausted themselves, and eventually, you know, another major sort of stepped in and took it forward. We see that partnership allowing that continued exploration and funding. And once Newmont hit that 75% ownership, this is where the real value comes for shareholders, is that ability for them to loan carry it through to production. So we're not talking about a exploration joint venture here. Should the geology all play out, we're talking this agreement moves towards a mining joint venture, and Newmont paid for all the exploration feasibility studies, funding any of the mine development that comes with the Ballura project. We would revert to a 20% ownership if we choose that finance option with Newmont, and then we repay our percentage through the production from any of the mineral assets at Ballura. So that essentially means that we don't have to tap shareholders for $1 on the Ballura project. That's it, it's done. So from a perspective of, if you've got a portfolio of 7 highly prospective assets, and you've got one that is guaranteed, should the geology work out, guaranteed to end up as a mine, we think that's a great outcome for shareholders. So we're expecting significant news flow from the work that we're doing with Newmont on the project. But yeah, so that's broadly the structure and what it gives for shareholders.
And I think, Chris, it's important to point out that that it is that funding. You don't have to go and tap shareholders for any funding for Ballura. It's taken care of. And that means there's that dilutionary effect that happens sometimes, because these do get expensive in this exploration stage. But that's all taken care of by Newmont. So basically, at the end of the day, if we fast forward X number of years, Legacy Minerals will still have 20% of something that could potentially be quite a large mine in the future. But that's way down the track, but you've still got some ownership, which I think is important.
Yeah, correct. And yeah, when you talk about 20% ownership of a Newmont-sized mine, you're talking about, world's biggest gold mines. That's what they mine, that's what they produce from, and that's what they explore for. So we see that as a great outcome for shareholders.
Are you taking notice yet, ladies and gentlemen? Sit up, there's more. Chris, let's go down to Black Range, because we showed that map before. I don't want to bring it up again, but it seems to, is Black Range on the same sort of geological structure? Because you said you think that it could have some similarities to Ballura. Is it on the same structure, or what's the go?
It's in the same age volcanics. So,
okay.
And it's something that when we started off exploring at Ballura, one of the, I guess, criticisms that we had quite early on in the project was that it's in the wrong aged rocks. So people in the Lachlan Fold Belt exploring the Macquarie Arc, and that's where all the drilling's been done. That's where the majority of the attention's been focused, and that's where all the major discoveries occur.
Okay.
As soon as you step out into essentially the Devonian Silurian, where we're exploring at the moment, you see just an incredible lack of attention. So, and that was a lot of, people are chasing success, but it also created bias. And that bias meant that people downgraded other sort of regions for their prospectivity. I think that if we've managed to put out that, Ballura has that prospectivity for a world-class deposit, we looked around, and I mentioned before, around the Lachlan, and said, this can't be the only system out there like this. And we pegged the Black Range project. So again, another acquisition that's cost Legacy shareholders $0. And when we started to do the work there, based off this pre-competitive data that the government had, reading the old historic reports, we actually identified that Newcrest, who were the last company that did any work drilling at this high priority prospect called Sugarbag Hill, that was in 1992. And wow. I mentioned before, 1992 was the year that they found Katie Ridgeway. So the tenement was relinquished a couple of months into, well, that was the last year they did any work down at Black Range. So they've walked away from that project, and there hasn't been any drilling since. And very similar to the story at Ballura, when you look through the historical reports and the way that it was explored, certainly we would have done things differently. Assaying for more elements, understanding the textures is absolutely critical in these types of systems. So that means extensive rock chipping. We've got quite a massive rock library for Ballura. So we see a really key sort of set of steps that weren't or haven't been done at Black Range that we did at Ballura, that has resulted in some really, really big wins for quite low costs. for shareholders as well. And so we're looking to get down and, I guess, replicate that success. But, importantly, when we were looking through the old reports that Newcrest had done some age dating on the mineralisation, and they dated it against known deposits in the Lachlan Fold Belt, and Ballura came up as the closest known deposit to this Black Range Sugarbag Hill mineralisation. So coincidence, and the importance of that is that that these are formed around the same times. And if Ballura certainly starts to demonstrate some significant potential, we see again another big underexplored district. To emphasise the scale of Black Range, it's about 3 times the size of Ballura.
Oh wow,
so it's huge. But when you talk about 900 square kilometres of volcanics prospective epithermal mineralisation, we've got about 30 kilometres of strike between two Mylura and Harper's Find, 2 epithermal occurrences. It's a massive, massive system. So a bit like Ballura, we've pegged virtually the whole district, and so that's what again attracts. Majors want significant exposure. They're not interested in prospects or even multiple prospects. It's really district scale control that gives projects, I guess, big potential, and that's what we've got at Black Range. So we're quite excited, and the other real ingredient that we're seeing at Black Range that we were able to demonstrate at Ballura is preservation potential. When you're talking about really old epithermal systems, preservation's key, and Newcrest did a lot of work in identifying big zones.
Sorry, Chris, what does that mean, preservation?
Preservation. So if you've got a system, you imagine a volcanic activity, and you've got eruptions and hot spring type systems, they form at surface. And as soon as they form and the volcanic activity stops, they start to weather, erode away. So if you've emplaced gold relatively close to the surface, and then you weather it for 400 million years, you'll most likely lose the bonanza grades or the best parts of that systems. So normally these epithermal low sulfidations are found in rocks that are relatively young. So the active volcanic regions like Japan, PNG, Indonesia, New Zealand, they're where the predominance of these systems are found, as well as South America, where you've got altitude as well as age that have sort of helped preserve those systems. So they're quite hard to find from that preservation factor. Okay. And so if you have that preservation, that means you've potentially got an intact epithermal system, you add geochemistry and you add scale, and now you're talking that you're in the game for potentially something that's quite big.
If this is, and we're running out of time, so I've got to make this quick. If this is 3 times the size of Ballura, are you going to do a sort of a same sort of deal? Is Newmont having a little bit of a sniff around Black Range? Or can't you tell me that at the moment?
Yeah, we're always open to opportunities on the projects. We certainly feel that we need to build value on the project. What we're looking to do is, we learn a lot of lessons at Ballura, and we'll be learning some more with Newmont in terms of exploration techniques. We're going to be able to accelerate, I guess, that on Black Range. So, we'll be having a hot start on it. We're looking to retain it for a little bit, add value. It certainly presents a significant opportunity. So, there's discovery exposure for shareholders. There's obviously, people know that we can get deals done throughout our portfolio. So there's certainly significant avenues to add value on that project.
Well, you're kind of blowing my mind with the fact that you've got Black Range and Ballura, but you've also got 5 other projects as well. So you guys must be working pretty damn hard. I don't think the market has quite woken up to the fact that this is real. Newmont can see it's real. Newmont is spending some time and money. So that's a great deal for shareholders going forward, because not a dime will be spent of legacy minerals funding for Ballura. Black Range, they're working hard on that one as well. But we've also got all those other projects. So Chris, let's wrap it up in a bow, if you like. And I guess give us 3 reasons why people should be sitting up and taking notice of legacy minerals right now. Just 3. Sorry, I know you got 7 projects, but you're going to have to pick 3.
Yeah, well, firstly, I'd say it's Ballura. So it sets us apart from a lot of the, there's a lot of juniors out there on the ASX, a lot of people exploring. The endorsement from such a significant joint venture party as Newmont is testament to the prospectivity and the value that they see in that project. So that's upside through that project that we see, and the optionality to have, it's difficult to raise money in this market, as a lot of people know, very dilutive. So that gives, shareholders good free carried through to production. So that's the first one. The second is, we're looking to repeat that same success at Black Range. So again, that's providing shareholders upside to discoveries that Legacy own 100%. And we're very, very, that's going to be an aggressive news program as well in terms of our exploration and news flow. So there'll be lots to look for on that. And then thirdly, I'll just talk about that. It's just the broader portfolio is that we have an incredible package of prospective ground. What that does is it creates a lot of competitive tension for where we're going to drill. And so we only drill really high conviction targets, and we are quite successful in what, when we do drill. So, there's great exposure to plenty of discovery opportunities across that portfolio as well.
Chris, it's been, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, who knows where Legacy Minerals will be come August 29 and 30, but that is when they'll be at the Australian Gold Conference in Sydney at Crown Barangaroo, where you can go up to Chris and ask him all the questions. But I think we've covered it pretty well. One to really sit up and take notice of. This is not financial advice. Do your own research, or why not give Chris a call at Legacy Minerals? I'm sure he'd be happy to take a call. Sorry, Chris, put you in it for that one.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks for having us on today.
All right. Talk to you soon.